This is the Amplify Your Business podcast with Matt J. Hannam, where I have candid conversations with inspiring people and turn topics inside out to help you get amplified in business and in life. Guys, welcome to the show. Today is a bit of it's a rewind episode. I wanted to share a quick note with you, and then I'm going to jump into a really cool episode that I don't think many of you may have heard, and I think you'll really enjoy. So I just really wanted to put this back out there. But firstly, just to let you know, these the Inside Out or the weekly episodes have been coming out on Fridays, are now going to be coming out on Tuesday. So we've opted to chuck an episode up today, this one here, but from Tuesday, you'll get a new episode. So you'll actually get two this week. And from there, we're going to shift them to Tuesday. So I hope the timing works for you. It's going to work a little better for us in all our planning. And we hope you can enjoy listening to your favorite Amplify Your Business podcast with me, on a Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon or whatever suits you. Hey, you can wait till Friday if you like, but thanks for listening. And what I would like to do is share an interview that I had with a good friend who's now a good friend of mine, Sain. He's a absolutely amazing guy who runs one of the few or possibly the only in Australia youth services private businesses to help young kids. And he uses this amazing, insane protocol and program that he's built around vision boarding, and he changes lives. And look, he has an incredible story around entrepreneurship. He's got he's got some stories that would test you in your mindset. I mean, he's been through some hardships that we can only imagine. And I just think you're going to get a lot of value out of listening to Sain and how he goes about what he does. He is one incredibly inspiring individual. So this is a rewind episode, and I hope you're enjoying the new format of the Amplify Your Business with Matt J. Hannam podcast. I'll see you next time. You know what, this could be a tricky start, but I'm gonna nail this one. So I've seen it done poorly, but I'm gonna get this one right. So I'm here with Sain.
Yeah, that's right.
Sain, youth worker, counsellor, mentor, and the leader of a social enterprise called Insane Youth Services. I'm pretty happy, pretty stoked that I crushed that name there. But listen, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
And I think I might just start off with you just quickly letting us know just about Insane Youth Services and what you do, and we'll start there.
Okay, cool. So Insane social enterprise. It's so funny. I don't think a lot of people in Australia actually know what a social enterprise is and the intention. What is actually a social enterprise? So I'll quickly clarify that. So a lot of people say non-for-profit, private business and social enterprise. Now, there's no real a social enterprise is this in particular, like a non-for-profit is designed with a board, blah, blah, blah. Yep. Social enterprise, from my understanding and from the people who've mentored me, is an organization, private business, non-for-profit, whatever, that actually makes a difference with an intention to create financial benefit with the long-term effect of actually making a difference in the world. So ours is potentially to empower young people to fulfill on what's important to them. And that's the social enterprise. Meaning is that you've started a business to make a social impact and make a difference in the world. So that's the entire reason. I don't know if you totally agree with that.
Yeah, look, I do. I personally, I don't know if you know much about what I've done as well, but I sat on the board of Space Cubed for several years. So we definitely started in that space. And look, we were making profit. But we were a social enterprise. But we definitely had the core values were the impact that was and why we were doing what we were doing was sort of the key thing around building the community for startups and we supported not social enterprises right through to commercial enterprises that were all looking to make a difference in a lot of ways. So definitely understand. And that a big part of that is that they're often self-sufficient or attempt to be. And that's, I think, the critical piece or the big difference between just a standard not-for-profit space is that you're not just looking for government support fully. There's always there's more entrepreneurial type activities to generate income and do what you do to help you grow and be sustainable.
Yeah, that's funny. So I see a lot of businesses now start up and I'm like, man, that's actually a social enterprise.
Yeah.
And you speak to the founder and they're like, what's a social enterprise? And they've done all this work. Yeah, they've done all this work to start up a non-for-profit, NFP, whatever. And it's like, well, you you should set up as a social enterprise. It'll be way better for you. So there you go. Awesome for the social enterprise people out there. Apparently, it's a big thing in Asia. The whole social enterprise space. Okay. I'd love to actually more research on it coming to Australia more.
I was actually in Singapore recently and with someone who, Alicia Hancock, was up there at a similar conference that we're going to. And she was talking to some people because her focus area is to help and empower cause organisations. So social enterprise falls within that realm, but also not-for-profits. But apparently this in Singapore, and I don't know if the rest of Asia looks the same, but there's actually very few. Like we're very micro and entrepreneurial in the sort of not-for-profit type space because someone will have a passion, an interest, and just go and start their small, their small organisation, whatever that looks like. And often there's one person, operations that are out there, and they're just, they devote their life to a cause, and that's brilliant. But in Singapore, it's very different. There's only a handful that effectively manage everything. They get a lot of government support and money, and it's driven that way. So I wonder what the rest of Asia looks like, and maybe that's why more on the entrepreneurial side, some people are starting this social activities rather than like actually looking to start like not-for-profit type things because that's effectively covered, but they want to bring something different. Because I find, tell me what you think, but I feel like social enterprises bring a different energy to the approach. 100%. Like there's a different type of like motivation.
I think where you're coming, so interesting you say that. Look, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but my opinion on this, the non-for-profit space compared to social enterprise, when you say energy, the non-for-profit, you need a board to operate and set up. So you've got a whole other bunch of people operating from a different intention. When the social enterprise is literally focused on whatever the intention for the social enterprise is in the first place. So the non-profit is focusing on where we need to get money, we need to get this board together, this is how we need to operate, we need to make sure we have everything in place to make sure the government says you guys are doing this correctly, we'll fund you. Where the social enterprise is so much more freedom to like, hey, we're going to keep going and hustling to make sure that we're actually making a difference with what we care about. And I think a lot of people hear that message. When you hear non-profit, have you got all your paperwork in place? Have you done your newspaper article to make sure you can set this up properly before? So like, I think you're absolutely right. There's a completely different energy when people are listening to why we're doing this in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me about Sain.
So Sain starts, probably was a bit of a personal connection, I think, as most people who set up.
Well, why don't we dig into that first then? Like, why don't we talk about how it became,
how it all started,
how the journey started, and where
Sain
came from? Yeah.
So when I share this, I take you back into a classroom of 35 young people in a year 7 classroom. So I went to Heathridge Primary School, and I was sitting in class doing my work, and my principal comes into the classroom, and I hear a whisper, "I need to speak to Sain," and as a kid, you're kind of like, "Oh, what's that all about?" And Mrs. Wood pulls me out of the classroom into the hallway of smelly school bags and says, "Mum's not picking up from school today." And coming from a Macedonian Romani background, I thought, cool, one of my family members will pick me up. And turns out it was the Department of Child Protection, and it was a local youth worker. Her name was Sarah. And Mrs. Wood pulled me out and said, "Look, Mum's dealing with some stuff. There's some things going on at home. This youth worker is going to come pick you up. She's really great." Me and my sister were waiting at the front. I just remember hopping into a white car, and we got taken to the local park and met Sarah. And she was fun and she was happy. And she's like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And we kind of got this gist of like, what the hell's going on? And long story short, Mum was dealing with some mental health issues. And we got supported by the department. Now, we never got put into a home or anything like that. But we had a local youth worker pick us up from school 3 days a week, and started our engagement with, I guess, a local youth service. Now I only just found out recently that Mum had actually reached out to the department, and we were dealing with a family breakdown. And what actually had happened is Mum was dealing with severe mental health and an attempt to take her own life. And that was my first understanding of why our family was the way it was.
And you're 11 or 12 at this point.
Yeah. So when you have, I don't know if everyone's listening who has parents to deal with severe mental health, it can be a tough game. And as a young person, not understanding why is this happening. And we got supported and realised Mum was getting support, and I got taken to a local youth service after that called Anchors, and I met a youth worker, and he kind of took me under his wing. And I think when you're dealing with that from such a young age, and then you see the impact of the family breakdown, in high school, I became this, angry young person.
It's a big transition too, I get. Like there's enough of a transition, I think, moving into high school, which I've never really thought about. But it's so you go through this sort of personal and family change, obviously coming to grips with, I have no idea how an 11 to 12-year-old comes to terms with that kind of, their mum being in that situation and trying to, obviously take her life and be at the point where she could do that, which is clearly, she's clearly struggling. And you've gone through these huge changes, like all at the same time or within a 12-month time frame. I mean, do you have to grow up at that point? I mean, what does that look like to you? What do you?
Well, this is what it looks like. I'll just keep it real and raw, right?
Yeah.
When you're at school and knowing that your mum's dealing with, or your parents dealing with this mental severe issue around mental health, am I going to come home and find someone hanging? So when you get 12-year-old, 13-year-old thinking, am I going to come home and see that? And the anxiety level just goes through the roof. And your mate's like, hey, man, we're going to come over. I'm like, oh, just hold on a second. I want to make sure that everything's safe before you come home.
So you would do that? You would actually?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just a concern of going, hey, should I, that. And I've got to be mindful. I'm making sure I'm respecting my mum when I'm talking about her here now as well. Yeah. From such a touchy subject. But that's what it was like. And it was like, well, hence Sarah came pick us up from school and that's what we do. But that's given insight from, I'm really good in the kitchen. And it was like, this is what was happening and you had to learn how to cook at a certain amount of time. And we had an incident not long ago and, my mum still suffers with that. And, hey, we're dealing with this at home. Can you come over? Because we can't, make sure mum's safe. So, and I'm being really touchy about how I talk about this, because it's still something that's significantly happening in my family. But now having, dealt with that, being able to support not just my own family, but hence it's literally my entire career now is supporting families and young people who are dealing with severe mental health issues and setting up the structures in place to keep someone safe. But just a little bit of a picture of what it was like. Am I going to come and open the door at home and there's going to be a mess? So it was that constant eggshell. So you can imagine what school was like. I flunked school. I still to this day, I can't remember even completing one assignment. Like I never completed. And that's what it was like dealing with that. And then from the youth perspective, having my youth workers take me under their wings and going, hey, how about you come and join this program? So the City of Joondalup put together this hip hop program, which taught you the basics of DJing, hip hop. There was some breakdancing there. And it was really to engage young people who was, causing a ruckus in the community. Let's get them off the streets and let's engage them in this program. So I went along and absolutely loved it. You can imagine 15-year-old, 14-year-old getting to use turntables and mix hip hop music and a bit of doing some of that and busting a rap, even though Tupac and all that stuff was big back then. Everyone thought they were like this Tupac superstar. And I thought I was like this rapper gangster who...
it's funny what you think when you're about 15.
Oh my God.
You think you're this adult, you're out there doing this stuff. And
it was big time when the Up in Smoke tour was big. I don't know if you remember that sort of stuff, Snoop Dogg's era. And so I kind of went through this phase, but really got connected to music. And it's interesting now when you think about it, how music does impact our mental health. We can listen to one song and it'll make you cry. We can listen to one song and you can listen to Drake. I actually walked into the office and there was music playing in the environment.
We always pump music. The only reason it's turned off now is because we could hear it through the podcast.
Wow. Okay.
We do not ever turn it off.
Yeah. Well, what's fascinating, I find it interesting. I'm not a psychologist on how music impacts mental health, but it's fascinating how music does make a difference. And I think back then, there's 2 points to it actually. Now you can listen to Drake and that does impact you. Back then I remember listening to Tupac as a young person and how I was like, wow, this music really pumped me up. I want to go have a fight. Like from a 15-year-old element, we're not mindful of what's actually the music doing to us. However, what it did for me is it got me to escape from dealing with what was happening at school or at home. And so I engaged in this program for 2 years and I got really, really good. And you can imagine now, I was 14, 2 years attending this hip hop program, learned all the basics on scratching, mixing, making music. And then I went to, do you remember a store called Cosmics? I don't know if that's still around, right? I went to Cosmics and I was like, man, I'm going to buy some decks. And I was awesome that mum and dad, said, look, we'll help you buy these decks, whatever, blah, blah, because I really was committed to this program. By then I'd stopped going to school and I was like, yeah, I want to be a DJ. And went to this store and I was mucking around with these turntables and I was kind of just doing some scratching and the guy who was there had like a little small label. So he had like some contracts with some nightclubs. And I was 16. He said, oh, would you be interested in mixing in a nightclub? And I was like, yeah, can I even do that? And we got the permission, spoke to mum and dad, and I was in year 11 by this time. Now you can imagine 16-year-old being offered an opportunity to mix at Bar 120 in Hillary's. Do you know that club?
Yeah.
Liquid nightclub in Rockingham. And I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. So we signed this like little mini contract thing where I went behind the decks and wasn't going to drink alcohol or do anything like that. And that was it. There I am, 16-year-old, mixing at Liquid Bar 120, Liquid nightclub, getting paid $150 an hour. And I would mix at 10 o'clock at night till 3 in the morning. Now, what was awesome was City Dreamlight provided this hip hop program and taught you the basics. However, they did not talk about what happens in that industry.
Well, they didn't really expect the plan wasn't to get you into the industry.
No,
the plan was to get you focused on something, and that's what you were doing. You dug right in, right?
Exactly. And then there I am mixing for 18 plus year old events, and they're all under the influence of drugs, alcohol, and 6-year-old young person. Now, the funny thing about it is I was mentored by someone else. We did a workplace learning. You do workplace learning at school, year 10. That started with someone who was involved in that industry. And I would get picked up from school in a black Lambo every Wednesday and every Friday. So I'm just giving you insight. An angry young person goes through the hip hop program, gets signed to this little label, making $150 an hour, getting picked up from school in a black Lamborghini every Wednesday and every Friday. And that's when it kind of hit rock bottom for me.
How?
So here's an example. I got introduced to, here we go. I'm just going to keep it real, man. I don't really share this stuff publicly.
I'm happy for you to share what you like. It says.
I probably had more sex with married women at 17 and got introduced to that world than most 35-year-olds would now. And, being surrounded by, these people, someone's brought a penis pump out when I was 16 and said, oh, you should use this. And thinking about it now, the psychological impact that has on a 16-year-old who's in that world, I saw a lot of things that most 16-year-olds shouldn't maybe see. And it was the impact of violence in the back of a nightclub to what bouncers do to people. To the impact of, married women saying, hey, just drop me off at home as my husband and don't worry about that. And from that now going, wow, that's the world I was in. The impact on me back then was like, well, that's what life is. So I dropped out of school. I was making a lot of money and that's the lifestyle I started living.
So you hit rock bottom there, and I'm sure we could go into the depths of that, but I think there's a lot more value we can sort of dig through and discuss. But so how do you recognize rock bottom, and then what's the mindset at that point? Like where do you go to from there?
Yeah, so I'm sitting at back of Metro's nightclub, 17, and I'm packing stuff up. I'm about to get ready to leave, and I literally hear this guy getting beaten the shit out of. And I can feel the anxiety now. I was like, is that guy going to live? And I don't know, whatever happened, drug deal gone wrong, I don't know, whatever. I got so scared. I was like, what if they see me? Or I was just this young kid moving turntables. And I could just still hear this guy struggling to breathe. And I was like, well, I don't want to be here anymore. And I think I had like 50 meters to walk to the outside, and I couldn't even walk past the door because I knew that's where it was happening. And I just kind of froze. And that was that moment where I was like, I need to, like, this isn't me. This is not who I am. And I had this facade of being surrounded by, people in that industry that was sort of like this untouchable, like. And you can imagine, I was at school and getting picked up in the Lambo and the money.
What a contrast of life, right?
Yeah. I was just like, I don't even need to finish school. I was like this popular kid who was like kind of mean to everyone else as well. And I rang my youth worker that day and I said, look, I'm in this position. This is what's happening. And he said, look, how about you get out of that and actually start running the hip hop program that you were originally in, and we'll let you take it over, because the guy was running it stopped happening. And that's when something shifted. And they helped me set up. They said, well, when you register your ABN, talking about business then, it's cool talking about it now. He said, what do you want to call it? And I said, oh, we'll call it Insane Records. And the company's called INSAI, so it's got my name in it, right? What an ego thing back then. And I said, we would do that. And I got pulled off the label, and that was pretty messy because I was doing more than just DJing for these guys. And I remember running my first hip hop workshop, and I had, the turntables there, and I was teaching other young people what I was taught and how that, how the music and everything helped me with what I was dealing with. And I remember saying to the youth workers, the guys who were running, accountable for the project, and I said, what the hell's wrong with these young people? I said, I don't want to freaking talk about their problems. I just want to teach them how to DJ. And that's when it kind of all shifted. And it became, from me going part of the program, for me now running the program. And it was cool because I was like teaching these young people, like, this is the basics of mixing, and what do you find about this music? How did that make you feel? Blah, blah, blah. To like, well, this is what you need to do to focus on life, blah, blah, blah. Keep on track. Don't get involved in that. And all of a sudden I'm like this casual youth worker. And then it went from the city drill up to now the city of Wanneroo. So now I'm running 2 hip hop workshops in 2 local councils. I'm this 18-year-old who never finished school, and I'm making money and not in that nightclub industry anymore. And I kind of, pulled off the label and dropped all that sort of stuff. And then the city of Wanneroo got me involved. This is actually critical. The city of Wanneroo got me involved in this local government meeting. So you got all these youth workers, counsellors, psychologists, people who are trained in social work, blah, 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 around this big boardroom table, and it's a youth services meeting. And the boss at the time says, all right, guys, we just want to get everyone together and share about what you're doing in your local youth centres and how you're making a difference to the young people in that community. Now, give you a bit of a run back then. I had my motorbike licence before. I had my car licence. I had both my eyebrows piercing, I had my nose pierced, I had my lip pierced. You would hear Tupac coming out of my headphones. Like, I was just like...
You looked a little bit different to the other people in the room.
Yeah, right. And I get invited to this table. So I'm running casual, like I'm a casual running these hip hop workshops. And it was interesting hearing everyone around the table talk about, look, I'm running in this program and we're doing art therapy with young people, and we've got, 25 local young people engaged in this project, and we're going to get them together, blah, blah. And then the next person's like, we're running a fitness workshop and teaching kids about health and fitness and healthy eating. And it came to my turn to talk. And I've just been involved in this program, with local council. And I went, hey, fuck, hey, he's going, yeah, shit, my name's Sain and shit. And I didn't know how to communicate with these people who were communicating professionally. And I just got so embarrassed. I remember everyone staring at me like, what is this guy doing here? And I didn't know how to communicate. And I was like, yeah, I'm running the hip hop programs and shit. And we really want, young people to talk about their problems through music and, fucking shit. And I walked out of the meeting going, what the hell was that? Like, what did I just do? I didn't know how to talk. And my boss at the time, who they were taking me on as the contractor, said, hey, Sain, look, we really want to support you in working with us. Would you be interested in doing some personal development? And I said, what do you mean? And they said, we can do some communication courses, and we can get, I was like half an hour late for the meeting. I'll give you a bit of an insight. I had my eyebrow ring. I took my helmet off so fast that I actually ripped it. And I didn't realize there was blood coming down my face during the meeting as well. And so these local council directors are like, what the hell? We've got this guy running programs supporting young people in the community. He looks like a mess himself. And that's when I got introduced into the world of personal development. And nice. So Robin put me onto this course, and they made me do a time management course, emailing, like how to write professionally for local government in emailing courses, and then a communication course, like a leadership training course. And man, that's when my whole world shifted. and I got introduced to the world of local government. And then 5 years later, I'm managing 3 of their youth centres for the city of Wanneroo. And I've gone from running this hip hop program to now running, they put me in a Cert 3 in youth work. And it's cool just to acknowledge, I guess, our local government here and the youth workers who took me under their wing to get me involved in a Cert 3 in youth work. And then 5 years later, I'm managing these youth service centres, and I'm talking about, hey, how can we fundamentally make a difference here and create some frameworks and structures for young people in the community?
Yep.
And I'm like, wow, talking completely different. And then an opportunity came up to, I got bored. And I was, then I'm managing a team about, how to become a youth worker, how to support young people, following the youth worker code of ethics. And then 2 years later, 5 years, finished with the local government, and then got offered an opportunity to work with one of our detention centres. It was called Rangeview at the time, which is our prison system for young people. And there was 130 of us who applied, and it's a pretty intense training. And we went through that entire system. And next thing you know, I'm sitting in a prison working with some of our most highly at-risk kids in Western Australia. I'm like, how did I end up getting here? And it was pretty cool doing the training then. And then
obviously it was somewhere along the path that you could easily have been on the other side of the wall, right? I mean, I'm sure that's something that must have come to mind. Like if you had have stayed, down the path where you could have been heading, and certainly proximity is power, right?
Yeah.
And if the 5 people that you're hanging out is you're getting picked up in black Lambos from school and you're in and around, drug dealers and things happening, you very easily, even if you did something wrong once, could have found yourself on the other side of that.
Yeah. I'll share something I haven't shared before. Here I am riding a stolen scooter as a 19-year-old and get pulled up by the police. And it was so funny. It was so fake for me because I wasn't a gangster at all. But being surrounded, like you said, being around and by them people, you kind of not think that's who you are, but like whoever they say, the top 5 people you hang around is who you end up becoming. And so I was going into that world, and I remember police pulling me over, and they're like, "Is this your scooter?" And I said, "No, it's stolen." And I remember the police taking it, getting charged. And I was like, far out. Like, I've got to get out of this. And like that, it's the people who are the other people on the other side of the fence who are like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. Yeah. The people who want to try and pull you out of it, that you need them people to make a difference, to actually get you out and get you to see the perspective of what your future could look like. And I'll talk a little bit later. That's literally the work I do now, is give young people the opportunity. One of the things in Sain's vision work is we sit with young people and we create a vision board. Everyone knows what a vision board is, but the questions that we ask give young people to share whatever it is that is important to them. So I literally tell young people, if you could have absolutely anything right now, I don't mind. I don't even care if you want to be the biggest gangster in the world or the most successful entrepreneur in the world. Whatever it is that you want, all you got to do is write it down, and I promise we'll explain why that's so important to you. And I create that safe space. We go, if you want to be a gangster, let's have a look at why that's so important. And when I look at it now, the only reason why I wanted to be a so-called gangster is that I was so scared of what was happening at home and wanted to build people around me that were so, tough and
it's control and power, right?
That's right.
In a lot of ways.
I had no
you're
power
looking to try and take control of situations that you can't.
That's right. And that's why when I meet young people now and, they're in that space, I can kind of get the world of it and get, wow, you're just as scared as I was. And it's really cool to have that background. I know we've kind of gone left and right here because
just have a chat.
But that's really cool to relate with young people. One of the key elements of Sain is being able to get into young people's worlds. And I think when I work with a school and they're like, Shane, we just want this kid out of our school. And if he's not engaging and he's causing a ruckus. And then you sit with a young person and you'll say something like, my mum's dying of terminal cancer.
Yeah.
I'm scared of, that happening.
There's always a why, right, behind people's actions. Like, sometimes good, bad, or indifferent, but there's always a reason or something that's triggering all of our activities. And that's, I think, that response is an easy response. I don't want to deal with the problem. But the other side of the equation is people that go through challenging situations are often people that go and do a lot of good around the place. And it's you have to go through that hell to come out the other side. And you're a prime example, of that. What you've been through has led you to be devoted to the cause that you're, to what you're running now. So as a social enterprise, how does it work at this point? Like, what sort of challenges did you have starting that social enterprise? How do you find that financially? Like, what does that look like?
So I guess I'll probably have to go back a little bit to create how we actually got to the point of starting. So working with the prison system, and then I finished my counselling studies because you did need the piece of paper to obviously work in such an area like that. So I started my counselling studies, and then what I found was getting involved with youth workers and then working within local government and then the prison system. And then counselling, I got offered a counselling role with a Mission Australia, which was working with young people who are homeless. And so we did that for a bit. And then I left and worked with young people out of prison through another non-for-profit, and then got offered opportunity to help set up like a care school, and did a bit of work with them. And then the education department saw the program that I created. And so I created this thing called Vision Works, about setting a vision and looking for the future and then aiming for that forward. And got offered a counselling role at a local high school. And that's when I started creating these, sort of visions to create young people, whatever it is you want, let's make it happen. And next thing you know, it's now been 15 years. I was working for the head office of the Department of Education, sitting at the next roundtable meeting with directors from head of Department of Ed, saying, how are we going to make a difference in the education system for these young people? And I was running this program. I got to practice it with, I guess, within the education system. And they said, look, how about you train our staff in your story and how to engage young people through their vision? And I said, look, I'll tell young people they can have absolutely they want. I need to fulfill my vision. And I left. I gave up I had a permanent government role, Govy credit card, Govy car, and was running my program. What else could he ask for? And I said, look, I think I need to go out on my own. Now, this is interesting for guys who do want to go out on their own. I was really, really good at working with young people, like really, really good at connecting and engaging with people in general. And I said, look, I'm going to go out on my own and start this business. And it's so funny you got this Gary Vee book up there. I think when you're a young person or anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur and you watch people like Gary Vee and Kerwin Ray and all these entrepreneur videos, you kind of think, I'm going to go out on my own and do this. And I'll paint the picture for you. And I've gave up my permanency at the government. And I said, look, I need to follow my vision. And my vision is to start a social enterprise and engage and be an entrepreneur. And now telling my family, like this young person who's gone through whatever he's gone through, to now get to permanent state government.
Because they would have seen that as the epitome of what they.
Yeah,
you've got into this stable place. This permanent job. Oh, look, you've got the white Camry. Whatever that looks like. You've got the fuel card. You're there. That's exactly what they would have dreamt of seeing you do after the roller coaster that you've been through.
Yeah,
and you've come back and you said, "Oh, by the way, I'm leaving this and I'm starting a social enterprise."
My grandfather, my parents are like, "Shane, what are you doing? We know you want to change everything. We know you've now been through it. Just relax." Yeah. And I could still hear my grandfather, "Why you want to leave this job, bloody? Stay. It's good for you, That's my grandfather. And I said, "No, I've got to do this." Now, the downfall of it, when you listen to people like Gary Vee and all them, like, yeah, just go follow your dream and go do it. Just do it. You can really be stupid with it. So I ended up giving up this position. And it was cool. The department was like, we'll have you back. How can we contract you? I didn't understand how business works. I was great with kids, but I didn't know how to set up the ABN and the structures you need, insurance, to how to set up Xero and accounting software.
What is Xero?
What is Xero? Like it's an accounting package, blah, blah. I'm still just learning how to use it. And then what happened was people would be like, hey, can you send us an invoice? And I sent an invoice with a number and didn't even know what GST was. And just knew I was great at what I did. And then what happened was I thought it would be a good idea to technically I didn't even have the money to pay for my mortgage. And I thought, I've got these contracts coming up. and I didn't pay my mortgage for 8 months. And we're having dinner, and I hear this. And it was 9 o'clock at night, and this guy sends me these papers, and he goes, "You got 24 hours to come up with," I think it was nearly $20,000 that you've gone over plus whatever the repayments were for the mortgage. Otherwise, we've started the legal process because we couldn't get in communication with you. And you're going to lose your house. And I remember, like, first of all, closing the door so my fiance and stepdaughter wouldn't hear what was going on. And I just went, "You stuffed up. You had your permanent position. You thought you could be this Gary Vee entrepreneur because you got so freaking motivated. You've just now lost your house. You've embarrassed your family, and you've got to tell your fiance, hey, look, this is the position that our financially put us in." I remember waking up the next morning when Samantha, she's like, "Who was that, babe?" And I said, "Oh, this step." I tried to cover it and it didn't work, and had to tell her what happened. And I remember waking up the next morning and I heard Samantha say, "It shouldn't be this fucking hard to make a sandwich." And because I put my entire family under so much financial pressure, we actually had no food. And I think rocking Sam with like, "Hey, this is what financial pulling us. We've got 2 weeks to come up with $25,000. I was so focused on getting this money, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, "It shouldn't be this hard to make a sandwich." And I remember getting up thinking I've just stuffed up. I failed. And I kind of just felt it was all my fault. And I said, "Man, I went up to Sam and gave her this big hug. And I said, I'm so sorry. I've completely stuffed up." But then I'd lost a contract to the department because I couldn't do the invoicing properly. I was overcharging, trying to benefit for, putting money together. And people were like, "You can't charge $320 an hour, Shane." And lost it all. And I said to Sam, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I just cried. And my stepdaughter heard, she's like, "What was going on?" And then Bella came in. I said, "I'm so sorry. We're about to lose our house. And it's all my fault." Now, the crazy thing about it all is I'm really good at faking. Like, "Oh, everything's fine. Don't worry about it." Like the counselor and the mental health professional can't have any issues. Yeah. And one of my mentors calls me. His name's Mark Godfrey. And he's mentored me since I was 14. And what was really cool, actually, just to quickly share, my mentor back then at 11, 12, Vic, actually still mentors me today.
Yeah, right.
And it was there on my 30th birthday a few weeks ago. And he rings me and says, "Hey, how you going? How's business? What's happening?" And I said, "No, I'm going good, man. I'm going good." And I just couldn't fake it anymore. And he goes, "I got Belle in the car with me. You're on speakerphone." And I said, "Mark, but I've actually got no food to buy this week." And it's the very first time the guy who had the Govy car and the permanency and, could buy his Apple Watch, blah, 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 actually had no money. And from a 16-year-old making that $150 an hour, I was always, everything's going to be okay. And this time I had no boys in the background, no money, nothing to fall back on. And he goes, I said, "Man, can you help?" And that's that very first time I realized that you can't do it on your own. And he goes, "Yeah, bud, what do you need?" Now, Mark Godfrey is a pastor of a local church as well. So they, churches, connection to people with food hampers and whatever. And he said, "Look, come past my house tomorrow and I'll organize a local church to give you a whole bunch of food." And I still remember crying on the phone to him going, how the hell is a man going to speak to someone else going, "Hey, can you help us out with food?" And I went back the next day and Bella was in the car with me. And I said, "I'm just going to go to Mark Godfrey's house." And I lied about, it's going to be cool sharing this with Bella. She goes, "Oh, is that, there was frozen burgers in this box?" She goes, "Is that a frozen burger?" I was like, "Yeah, that's cool, hey." She's like, "Wow, I can't wait to try it." And I was just so embarrassed. I'm bringing frozen burgers and food, talking about a mental health professional, talking about eating healthy. And I felt like the most powerful man bringing food to my house. And I said, "Oh, Sam, we've got some burgers. You don't have to make sandwiches," and trying to make it, fun. But that was the start of the journey. And then the biggest thing was asking someone else for help to be able to save our house. And someone just said something like, "You can access your super." And I had no idea. So I guess for anyone listening now, if you're struggling with something, don't try and be all tough and blah, blah, blah. You actually need to ask, "Hey, this is what I'm struggling with." It's coming from a mental health professional who's telling people you need to ask for help. if you're dealing with something. I couldn't even do it with my freaking self. And that's where I realized.
But that's not uncommon, is it? Like
no,
in a lot of ways, it's always, you often are drawn to the thing that you need, you know, and you find yourself able to help people, but you haven't necessarily been able to. You've mastered what needs to happen, but mastering it on you, and for you, and for your family is a different, is a different level, isn't it? Or
That's
it's
right.
a new level of awareness and understanding that you need to do. So, wow, man, thanks for sharing that. That's some really powerful stuff that you've shared, and I think that's so important from an entrepreneur and business standpoint. Yeah, the Gary V's, and I've recently saw him in Singapore and got to shake his hand and say hello. But it's a very rare space. We, especially young kids, I think everyone's dreaming of this entrepreneur state, but we can't all be the top entrepreneurs. We can all be smaller, different versions of that. Like, we don't need to have full-time permanent roles in the government, but don't get carried away. Take small steps. And even someone like Gary has actually taken small steps. You just can only see him now at a much, much, much bigger level, but you can't risk it all. And momentum is important. And I think there's a lot of denial, and I've certainly done things that have impacted my family and made decisions on, it's all going to be fine. It's round that corner, it's going to be fine, and had to come to realizations that, you know what, maybe I made that mistake there. Maybe that was the wrong decision or investment or what it looked like. And you can't just walk into starting a business. Like you say, you're an expert in something, but it's not running a business. And you've got to learn those there is going to be some hard lessons, and with more help, you can potentially reduce, just even having more people to have conversations with, you can potentially reduce the impact of some of those, whiplash moments, those backlashes that happen. And they do happen to everyone, but we have this ego that doesn't want to ask for help. But that's madness. Like, if we're just learning how to shoot hoops and play basketball, we wouldn't expect to know exactly how to do it all. And we'd be happy for a coach to show us. Yeah. But in an environment like, hey, I'm going to step out and run this social enterprise, why do we expect to know it all from the start? Why do we put ourselves in that predicament effectively, where we can end up making some bad choices and get ourselves in some really tough places? It baffles me sometimes.
Well, it's an interesting question. I think when you look at it, why? I think for me was, I didn't want anyone to know they didn't have it together.
Yeah,
you can't know that. And I think the ultimate test for entrepreneurs is, once you let people know, hey, do you know what? I actually don't have it all together. The whole world shifts, because people are like, oh, I'll help you, man. What do you need? And that's all you needed to do.
It does. Sorry. I was just going to cut you. We talked earlier, just before we press record, and we were talking tall poppy syndrome. I think we should circle back to that, because I think this makes sense there, because I think, we step out, right? We step out on a limb, and maybe you can just share again you said the origin of tall poppy syndrome and how that's worked in WA, and how certainly Australia, and how it's become part of our, I guess, psychology and mentality. But that's what I believe it is. It's we're most worried about being judged. And I think when we go and do something different and step out and start an organization or business, or just whatever it looks like, we don't want anyone to have any ammunition on us that it's not working. And I think that's why we don't share those sort of downfalls, negatives, those places that we might need some help with, where our ego prevents us from doing that, because we don't want to admit that we can't do it, or we don't know how to do it yet, and we hope that we push through. But so tall poppy syndrome. Do you want to share that story?
So my understanding was that when we brought all our prisoners, or when the prisoners got brought over here to Australia, they were all chained up in a line. And what happens is they were all kind of walking together, whatever, blah blah. And if anyone tried to escape that line, or anyone tried to, we've heard the analogy, keep your head in line. If anyone moved, or anyone tried to escape, or anyone tried to cause something that would have people go, hey, he's trying to get away, the whole line would get punished, whether it was whipped or hurt or whatever it was. So that created the mindset of, like, people going, well, if you try to step out of line, we're going to get in trouble for you. So don't do that, because we're going to get hurt as well. And it makes complete sense. from now when my parents were like, don't leave your job. Don't leave, Shane. If you do that, we're going to all get in trouble, or we're all going to get hurt. You're going to impact us. And that's kind of where the origins kind of started for us here in Australia, where it kind of keep your head in line. The Japanese have the nail that sticks out gets hammered.
Yeah.
So when you look at it like that, like it's probably not an Australian phenomenon. It's a world phenomenon where someone who sticks out is going to get in trouble. And I think for us, that's where it's like, well, don't do that because, then the nail that sticks out is going to get hammered. It's the one that needs to get hammered.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because we all want the success for those people, and then we want to be like them. I think we aspire to be that person that steps away from the herd, steps away from the pack, but only after it's proven. And it's just such a risk.
Here's a story for you. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off.
No, go.
All right. So that's even right there. Even me just saying, I'm just going to keep it raw. Even me saying, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
Yeah. It's
like, I hear what you're saying, but look, hey, Matt, listen to what I have to say now. I'm going to cut you off.
Yeah.
That's the ego right there.
Yeah.
Even me saying, hey, sorry to cut you off. That's bullshit. No, I wanted to cut you off so I can hear my point of view about this. Like, that's it. And what I couldn't wait to share was to talk about, I'm going to say something quite radical. Oh, it's going to sound crazy. I've never said this publicly. All right, here we go. I believe I don't have any haters. I don't have any haters.
Right.
I don't have one hater. Now, in reality, I know that's probably like pretty crazy to say because I've experienced that. But when you look at it deeply with the analogy that we're using, people aren't hating me or hating what I'm doing. They actually believe what I have and what I'm doing belongs to them more than what it does belong to me. So I actually don't think we have haters in the world. We don't. Haters see what you have and go, how does he have that? I'm working just as hard as they are. I should have that too. So they start hating because they can't understand why we get that. Perfect analogy is, look, I've started the first private youth work social enterprise. Most youth work organizations, non-for-profit, government, Christian organizations, religious organizations, whatever you want to call them. You don't really have a private business that charges, you have your psychologists and counselors, but we're a social youth work enterprise. It's never been done before. So I had someone send me a message on Facebook and said, hey, I don't believe you should be doing what you're doing. You should be keeping it to local government and organizations who are non-for-profit. And thank God I finished my Cert 3 and 4 and diploma in counselling and diploma in youth work. That had me go, well, I'm qualified. I can. And this person says, well, I don't believe you should be doing that. You should leave it to the government. Now, first of all, it was my first experience of trying to start up something and someone going, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. Now, I thought to myself, I could react like, fuck you. Like, I'm going to do this. And I try to defend myself. I'm like, well, this is what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. I've created my methodology. And they're like, well, we don't care. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be leaving it. Now, the interesting thing was I thought, I'm going to love this person right now. And I said, well, great. Look, I would love to catch up with you and I would love to hear why you think that. And this person has some really good evidence to someone who's done something similar to what I've done, who got a lot of money from the government and then took all the money and left. And this person had a lot of evidence for that. And I said, wow, thank you so much for letting me know. What do you think you could do to help me to make sure that, the integrity of the organization isn't operating like that? Will you help me? Her response was, I would love to. What do you need? There is no haters in the world. There isn't.
No.
All she was trying to do was make sure that I was setting up an organization that wasn't going to take advantage of people who will support someone with what I do. And that's when I realized that day, wow, there's no such thing as haters. And I've had family come to my house and go, hey, I don't think you're a good leader. And I thought, wow, that person's like, thank you so much. You really just want to make me a better leader. What do you think would make a difference here?
It's so true, right? Yeah, no, look, it's always they're putting their perspective on you. And, you know, certainly in the last 18 months, I've started to create a lot of content, and it's amazing when you create some content and it gets out there. You never, you're never surprised what people can come up with in response to what you put out there.
About not liking
anything.
it. Cool.
Plenty of good, plenty of bad, plenty of just, you know, whatever. And it's always their own stuff, right? And it's
so good.
And often, they're not. It's definitely. I mean, you can take it personally, but if you stop, like you say, for a minute, and you let it sort of breeze by you and have a think about what they're communicating. I think one of the biggest problems that we have, and the disconnect with who we are versus who we want to be, is when we start to sling shit at the things that we wish we were and could do. I think when we turn that, rather than being aspirations and goals, and we turn to mocking and bringing down the people doing what we want to do, is when we force that barrier. So my view on that lady, as you've just said, is she actually really thought that the concept of a private organization had legs. It's why she took such an interest to even respond to you.
Yeah.
It's just that it was, the initial communication was misguided because she'd seen someone completely fail. And not just fail because they made mistakes, like they did the wrong thing. But people can do the wrong thing anywhere. And one example of it doesn't change anything else. But the truth is she reached out because she was interested in what you were doing, and you took the time to understand how she could potentially add value to it, and that mindset changed very quickly. Like from what I'm getting from the story, and I think that's a big problem when we just race out and this is what we do. We'll just knock someone down. Like I've seen a lot of people that would love to start businesses. Someone starts one, they can't do that. What are they doing? Why? Should be doing that? And they're sort of demeaning the very thing that they want. And I think that's a real scary place when you get there. I can't afford to do things like that. That's crap. I can't believe you can. You know, this type of negative language, I think, can be a huge problem. But look, we all are, you know, effectively one in so many ways, and we can see ourselves in everyone in some way, shape, or form. And I think you're exactly right. Like, there's no one can really hate you, because really, what is there to hate? And I saw Gary said it very well the other day, all the noise with Facebook and everything that's going on. And he was on, I think, like CNBC or one of those CNN, and someone said, what do you think about this, everything that's going on with Facebook and the platforms being able to control, or potentially the Russians being able to manipulate our political system? And he said, Facebook didn't make anyone racist. You're just putting information out to the people that are quite happy to consume whatever information it is that identifies with them. The core of any of these issues is not around a platform or delivery mechanism or even the terminology. It's how people are willing to accept stories. And like I said before, when I put out content, I'll put out content and I'll get hate. Not that often, but now and then. Often it's barely even related to the content, or they've completely taken it in another tangent because they just think they've seen something and they've responded to how they see that. And it's quite interesting in that format, because people are quite happy to publicly throw those things out there without understanding or even putting any effort into thought. Their first response is knock it down, knock it back. Yeah.
You know what's really fascinating? Let's talk about that quickly. I think the awesome thing, the opportunity and the privilege I have of working with young people is I get to see where it all starts. For example, we would have a young person go, hey, look, kid's been kicked out of a classroom, whatever, blah, blah. And the teacher said to this young person, you're not doing your work, you're not following instructions, you're stupid. And the teacher's probably joking, like, you're being stupid. The young person comes into my office and we're sitting in this room and, I said, this teacher thought I was stupid. And then they follow the conversation where that's kind of come from and blah, blah, blah. And it turns out, my mum and dad think I'm stupid as well. And all of a sudden, the mum and dad thinks I'm stupid. The teacher thinks I'm stupid. Now she starts living a life like she's stupid. And her entire life now this young person's entire future is to make sure that no one finds out she's stupid. So I'm going to go get a uni degree. I'm going to look blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do really well. So no one finds out I'm stupid. And if anyone gives me the inkling, even looks at me like they think I'm stupid, her whole life is. So it's funny when I work with young people and see where things happen. I choose not to work with adults. But what's interesting when I do, or I'm supporting a family or a parent or whatever, I'm literally not even talking to an adult anymore. I'm talking to the young person inside them that I would have spoken to when they were 15, 16,
where these
17.
beliefs were formed, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I find it phenomenal. And that's when you have like the people who challenge you or hate you. Look, the funny thing even about right now, like none of us even listening to each other. Like you guys can hear me, whoever's listening, and you can hear me, Matt, right? And then you're listening to me through what you like to hear. Like you're going, hey, this guy's actually really awesome. This guy's crazy. I really like how he said that. And you're not even hearing what I'm saying. You're hearing to what yourself is saying about what you can hear me saying.
Yep.
And then you're not responding to me. You're responding to your own internal dialogue. And I find that fascinating. And it's interesting. Like you're listening to yourself and you're responding to what I do like and don't like about what I'm saying to myself. And I think that's fascinating.
So good. Look, I've loved this chat. This has been so good, but I'm going to have to wrap this one up. Maybe we'll have to do this again. But yeah, we can certainly dig into this. Look, the other thing I do is a Simple Minds podcast, and I don't know if you've ever come across it, but there's 6 guys and we sit around this very table and we have a drink every Friday afternoon and we just sort of chat on bit of business, bit of life, bit of whatever. And we like to actually dig into things like ego and self-worth, self-love, and just anything that I think that the modern man doesn't communicate very well. And we like to break that down and try and be as vulnerable as possible. And we get some guests on from time to time. But
cool, man.
It's something else that we've spotted and noticed that we need to, we all do need a bit of help, or it's good to hear and listen to other people's stories, because we often find ourselves in isolation. It's not so. We are all much more common in many of our traits and actions and feelings and beliefs and everything than we really, than we really want to admit. But I think there's a lot of room for more people to do that. But I love what you're doing. Your story is very powerful. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing it with me.
My pleasure.
And what I'll do is I'll wrap it up with my usual question, and I'll get you to lean this towards social enterprise. But I finish off all my interviews with just what's the one thing that you advise people to do to amplify their business. And I might just lean that on the social enterprise space, because I know there's a lot of people out there aspiring and starting these social enterprises. And what do you think's are really or the most important thing that they should be focused on, especially in the early days?
Yeah, simple. One of the things I've learned is building your people around you, building your team. And with a social enterprise, you've got to share why you're doing what you're doing. It's a simple thing for me. I know by the end of today, there's going to be one kid who is going to suicide. By the end of this podcast today. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. We forget why we're doing what we're doing. And when you share that with people, now I can just say from a social enterprise, I have a legal team of 7 lawyers who work all pro bono for Sain. I've got a business development manager who works all pro bono for Sain. We're in the running for a $4.7 million contract, and we're potentially going to be funded for another thing as well. That would have never, ever happened if I wasn't connected to why the hell am I doing this? And I know by the end of today, there's going to be one young person who's thinking right now, should I end my life? And I share that with people why this is so important to me. And once I've done that, I'm able to now talk about ego. I'm able to let go of this is my company, this is what I'm doing, to who else can run this now? And I think once you get past that stage of you're setting this up for, I said, like, why do you want to help people? Because I get out of it. It goes past that point now where it's like, this is why we're doing it. How do we impact this and how do we make a difference? And I don't know if you've ever dealt with this, but when you deal with someone I've had young people attempt right in front of me. And when you're actually dealing with that, you get really connected to why you're doing it. So for some people, it might be, I want to provide water to people in this country, or, I want to make sure that women who are going through domestic violence don't experience it. I don't know. But once you get connected to yourself and you share that with people want to help you. People don't want to hate on you. they actually want to help you. If you can get past that point and go, if I said to you, hey, Matt, look, I've got a young person and his dream and vision one day is to be a podcaster. We just spent 15 minutes to talk to him about what it took for you to do that.
Of course.
That's right. So people want to help. It's our natural instinct. I would love to talk more about human psychology and why we do what we do. We want to help others more than we want to help ourselves. It's simple. So ask people for help, and I guarantee you, out of the 10 people that you request to help, one of them is going to say yes. And if you're very lucky, like I was, we've got now a team of 7 lawyers who are doing all our structural governance and legal structures to take on a $4.7 million contract.
Yeah, see, that's amazing. And if I put my marketing hat on for a minute there, whether we're an employee, we still have a client, a business of one. If we're a social enterprise, we're no different. We all need to sell and market in a way, our businesses, ourselves, whoever that is. And I see that for social enterprises, for not-for-profits, for anyone is super important, because the key behind that and what you've just talked about is having that deep connection to purpose and being able to convey that story to allow others to get behind you, because that's what that is. To build that team, it's you have to really concisely understand that why it drives you so hard, and share that with others that they want to join and follow and help and be part of your journey, because there's many, many people that do want to help others, right? And they always do. They're just looking for the right opportunities, or if the opportunity comes up for them, they will engage. It's it doesn't all have to be money. There's so much that can happen without money, as I'm sure you've experienced. And I think that's to throw my marketing hat on. I still see so many only talk about, say, I need money, or I need this resource, or I need that. The truth is, stop talking about that. Get deep in that conversation, that why, that what's going on, those stories, and the stories will provide.
Yeah. Watch the money come after that. Actually, it's interesting.
Yeah, well, that will come from that, but you have to talk on that line, because everyone's heard the story of the not-for-profit that needs more money. But everyone's heard that story, so don't talk to that story. Talk to the deep passion and clearly the noble cause that you're pursuing, and so many others are sort of pursuing to help, and it's often a human based reaction. But yeah, look, thank you so much for coming in. Where can people find out a bit more about you, Shane?
So www.insain, spelled insain.com.au, and personally just search me on Facebook.
Awesome. Thanks so much. We'll link up the organisation and a few bits and pieces we've talked about in the notes. And guys, I hope you really have enjoyed this one. Amazing story, and you're really powerful, and I can't wait to get this one live. But Shane, all the best. I hope the contract and the growth of the social enterprise all happens for you. And I can't see how it wouldn't, with as I said, the energy and the story and the purpose that you've clearly got, and the cause. It's phenomenal. And thanks so much for sharing your time.
Awesome. Thanks.